Don't worry, it's just a work. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Jamie's Wrestle Talk. I bet you thought I was going to give up at one, but hey, let's just roll with it and see how it goes. I haven't had a chance to talk about WWE yet, so let's see. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Smackdown, also the Being the Elite, and Raw, which only happened just last night, so buckle in your ear biscuits and get ready for some criticism, because I didn't find either of the WWE shows that great, sadly. No surprise. I will gladly admit right now that I'm an AEW fanboy, because I don't like what WWE are doing lately. They do some good things, and I do have some positives. Once again, I will say now, because you'll probably be wondering, that will be my son in the background. Thanks to isolation, we can't escape our children. That's not a bad thing, but just don't be surprised if there's like a random 10 seconds of gobbledygook where he steals this microphone and runs off of it. Anyways, let's get started with Smackdown. Or, well, just down. Let's start with the very first thing that I saw, which was the Shinsuke versus Braun Strowman kind of promo that they did at the start, where Braun Strowman came out and then Shinsuke followed up to challenge him. The first thing that popped in my head is, why is Shinsuke challenging for the belt? Like, wasn't he part of this, like, Cesaro and Sami Zayn group where he was just helping out Sami Zayn? When did he suddenly get the balls to, like, start challenging for, like, one of the main titles? Like, he was in the main title run, 2 years ago? And he ended up, like, losing the AJ Styles at, like, WrestleMania 34, 35, and literally we've barely seen him in the title picture since. Like, I know he's had a few, like, squash matches with current champions. Like, I think he had one with Brock Lesnar at one point for, like, the Universal. But it really made no point. It was silly. It made no sense. It wasn't consistent, because you could tell they popped out of the thin air. Now, I have to give them a slight kind of forgiveness, because I get that they're just struggling with what they've got in this current situation. I like to hope that they could have come up with something better, maybe. And maybe they had something in the pipeline that was going to be better. But yeah, it led to a lot of things. Another thing that I had to point out, because it bothers me, you guys might have a different opinion, but what is so bad about letting a guy whose native language is like Mandarin or Japanese or Russian or whatever speak in his own language? If he's going to be more comfortable doing his own language, just do it with subtitles. But no, WWE have this thing about making people like Shinsuke do these awkward English promos where they're struggling to get out words and it just sounds shit. Like, you've got this opponent coming down to the ring that looks impressive, like, you know, can look intimidating in the right way, and then they try and cut promo where they're like, you, me, fight now, and it's just like, it ruins it every time. It's just like it just throws me right off. I have to admit, I stopped kind of showing interest in this, like, straight away. And the fact that was then followed by Braun Strowman's fucking continuation of these stupid knock-knock jokes. I thought, like, you know, how could this get any worse? And then I heard him start doing the knock-knock things, and I wanted to bury my head in the blender. It was so fucking bad. We'll try and go on an upside from that, because it wasn't the best. I get that they're struggling, so they're just making the most of what they've got. So we'll move on, and I think it's only important that we talk about what followed this, which was Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors. They need to stop these rematches. We only just had this match at WrestleMania where they lost the titles, and they were immediately allowed to challenge it. There's one thing that I will say about AEW is at least they kind of do it correct, that you go back in the rankings. Yes, you're like the number one contender, but you can't literally ask for a match straight away. There has to be this little honeymoon period they do. I don't know if they have done it, but I believe they've always done like this little honeymoon period where you get 2 weeks of kind of staying, like, you have to kind of at least win one match after you've lost the titles to stay at the number one contendership and basically be able to re-challenge it and get your rematch, which I think it makes more sense, and it just doesn't look like you haven't got anything better to do. Once again, they might have been low on things, but the fact is, even before this whole incident, WWE were doing this whole rematch bollocks. Like, how many times did we get The Miz versus Shane McMahon in a row. It was like, 4 or 5 times we had to get a rematch, each time with a different stipulation. Oh, we'll do it in a steel cage. Oh, we'll do it like no disqualifications. It's just like, it's just... I think they seem to think that all the fans want to do is watch the same match over and over again in different situations. It's not interesting. In this case, it was the exact same situation. Yeah, they did a couple of different moves, which kind of made it a little bit more interesting. But other than that, it really just... It bored me. I was struggling to keep my eyes open at this point. I really did. And that's, no offence to them. Because I will say something good about it, which was Asuka. Asuka is a good heel. I think she's much better as a heel than a face. And like I was knocking Shinsuke for earlier, I like the fact that she talks in her own language when she's cutting like her little promos and her little heel things. It makes it look more convincing, and it makes it like look so much better. Sorry, I'm getting slightly distracted from my son asking me to fill up his bottle of juice. Will I edit this out? Hell no, I will. But like I was saying, like Asuka's promos are good. I like her as a heel. She's strong. I feel like she needs a bit of a push, especially when I get to her later. But I'll leave that for later. But a very important thing to take away from it is just the fact that out of the whole match, the only person that I was kind of showing any interest in any of their moves was Asuka. I feel sorry for Kairi Sane because she used to be a big deal back in NXT. Very important person. Just look back at some of her famous NXT matches. You can find it on YouTube. She's a solid, good wrestler. But they've put her against this tag team with someone like Asuka, who's in the similar situation of being, kind of a top player. And sadly, that's caused her to kind of be pushed into the back seat because she's new to this whole kind of big main event thing, whereas Asuka's kind of finally found her place. She knows how to cut kind of like her promos now, which I like, and the stupid dancing and that. I'm slowly becoming more and more of an Asuka fan again, which I never thought I would be after that stupid squash match where she lost the belt to fucking Charlotte Flair, who I will talk about at some point during the show, and I'll try and keep it not too bad. Like, I know so far, so far it's just been mostly negatives. I will try and add some positives. Like I said, I'm trying. I will say that Asuka did a really good job. She ended up basically stealing the spotlight for this whole match. I've actually at one point forgot that they weren't the champions, and it was actually Nikki and Cross that were the champ. I completely forgot at one point. No, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. I just said Nikki and Cross. That's, oh dear, Jamie, not good. But even though it was good, it did feel like a bit of a waste of a time. But I'm going to try and just keep the ball rolling here. We then got the Elias promo. And I said this a while ago to WrestleMania. I said it to a lot of people online. I posted on multiple walls and that, complaining about this. Which is, what the fuck was the point in having Elias be pushed off this balcony stage thingy by fucking King Corbin, which is the stupidest kind of storyline I've ever heard, and suddenly shows up literally a couple of days later back for WrestleMania with no sign of an injury, and now he's doing promos like nothing ever happened. We're supposed to turn a blind eye to the fact that he fell from a threatening height and was should have been in hospital for God knows how many weeks. No, he just got back up and was like, oh, scratch it. Zero to hero, as they say. Zero to hero. It was terrible. I really just it's all that pops in my head so much that I don't even pay attention to his songs because I'm just thinking, why the fuck are you not hurt after that? It's really bothering me. That was shortly followed by Ziggler and the Sonya kind of promo thing where they came down to the ring, started talking trash to Cole and everything in commentary. And, I think they kind of worked together. The idea of finally splitting up Mandy and Sonya, I think, is a good idea because together they were bland. They weren't that interesting. So I'm glad they're finally giving them a major, kind of push in some respects, maybe a single stars, hopefully, or maybe even a mix match tag team kind of thing. It wouldn't be so bad. That was interrupted shortly by, obviously, Tucker, who's the other part of Heavy Machinery. And, he did that whole thing where he was showing images of Otis and Mandy like working out and fucking Otis with the bananas and that, 'cause he loves his potassium. You know, all I've ever seen this guy do is eat meat and like, you know, but no, apparently he's a massive fan of potassium, so all the more power to him. I you know, fair play. I thought it was funny, in all honesty. It's a shame that was shortly like cut off by Tucker then losing, but it needs to work, I guess, for this Ziggler story to carry on the Ziggler and Sonya one. So we'll eventually probably get a build up to some kind of mixed match tag or 2 single matches and that. Overall, it served its purpose. It did, you know, it did its job. You know, I can't really say anything that bad about it. So there you go. I am being Mr. Positive. One thing I'm not going to be positive about is Miz and John Morrison's fucking, what's the show called again? Cheat Code or whatever. The Dirt Cheat, or that thing that they do, was just... It was a load of bollocks, because first of all, the first thing you kind of got was Miz was acting like he had won the tag team belts, like as if he was fucking there. We all know that, like, because of obvious reasons and that, he couldn't be there. So it ended up being that triple threat match, which I think they just shouldn't have bothered, because a triple threat tag team match that doesn't have tag teams in it for the tag team titles, it just didn't make any sense. I guess they just couldn't afford to fill in the time or come up with a substitute, like just have a triple threat match and just leave the tag team titles alone until you can have everyone back in the ring. But no, they had to carry on with it. It was stupid. I'm just being honest. I thought it was absolutely stupid. You guys probably were like, oh, well, they have to do it. It was WrestleMania. But I just think there's time and place to make it right. And I'd rather it be done right than done stupidly like it was like that. You know, other than that, it was just, you then had the other members of the tag teams come down. Miz was trying to defend himself, saying like he was hospitalised, you know, he must have gone to the same hospital as Elias because he had a super quick fucking recovery. So, you know, I'd love to know where this hospital is, or medical centre, shall I say. And basically they've decided they're going to have a triple threat match with the other members that weren't involved in it defending the tag team titles. So not only once are they going to screw up the tag team titles thing, they're going to do it twice, because why not? Why don't we just get double shot of stupid into our brains? I'm not going to go much into it because I fucking hate it. That was followed by Lucha Party versus the Forgotten Sons, which weren't advertised hardly at all about going up to Smackdown as a tag team. Like, I don't know, did anyone else see any kind of trailers or promos for the Forgotten Sons going up to Smackdown? I can't at least remember it. If there was one, I probably wasn't paying attention or I was asleep. This served its purpose. Like, Forgotten Sons actually won, which is something that hasn't happened to them well in NXT for a while. I just kind of hope that they finally get what they deserve, because they are a good tag team. They are a solid tag team. They seem to have got screwed over at NXT quite a lot. They never quite got the push that they deserve. So I'm hoping WWE might be, you know, the place for them after all. If NXT have got nothing for them, hopefully WWE will do something right with them. And we might even see him holding belts one day. So that's all I can say. Best of luck to them. You know, what more? Did feel a bit wasted, but the fact is, you know, once again, it served its served its purpose. Can't talk, like the Sonya and Ziggler thing. It got the message across. That was shortly followed by a couple of other promos of like backstage areas and all stuff like that I don't really give a crap about, and it just felt like wasted time. Then basically all I've got, here's another positive actually, because it's one thing I didn't actually write down or even take a note of, but it's just popped into my head. I actually like the Sasha and Bayley story so far. I think it's going well. I think the idea that it's kind of like Bayley throwing her best friend under the bus, like in that way that she's put her now in with Tamina, who's now being seen as this like almost like awesome Kong figure, even though like she's really plain and her repertoire is very, very limited. I guess it's kind of a cool thing because no one's meaner than Tamina. And, you know, it was generally quite good acting in the ring as well. Like, I don't like to use the word acting too much, but it was like, you know, the way she looked at Bayley when Tamina was like, you know, your best friend just screwed you over because she's thrown you in the ring with me. and that look that they shared, it was good. And, you know, it's following on that good match at WrestleMania that I had, you know, praise for. So I really, you know, it was actually pretty good. Like, you know, I'm trying not to staying off the negativity and staying a bit positive. This is probably the most positive I've ever talked about SmackDown. So, you know, let's try not to obviously get too cocky, because I will soon be saying bad things, which is Sheamus. The good old Paddy. The Paddy. I am half Irish, so, you know, I can get away with calling him a Paddy. I don't understand what was the point in him doing all this gym work. I know that he enjoys it, but he did all this gym work, got himself in some of the best shape of his life. Like, the guy just looks fucking edged. Like, you know, he looks big, he looks bulky, he looks extreme. He's a very good build. You know, you think this guy used to have WWE Championship runs, was even seen in the Universal title picture a few times. And, you know, he used to be one of the main stars. You know, he was up there with John Cena and, like, The Rock. Even, you know, he's been seen in the same kind of era as him. And now they got him squashing jobbers and kind of flexing in front of the camera like some absolute twat. So I just feel like, you know, if you haven't got anything good, don't put anything there. Give them time, let them come up with something a bit better. Going on the opposite end of that, it seems that WWE are giving not Matt Hardy. I was about to say something about Matt Hardy, but it's actually his brother Jeff Hardy who's doing WWE. Seems to be getting a push, because we saw a little documentary thing about him, and the way they're portraying it, you know, they're making him sound like this hardcore legend. They barely mentioned his brother for obvious reasons now that he's in AEW. I don't know if he's getting the push because his brother's in AEW and they want to take the limelight off of, like, you know, Matt onto Jeff and try and, like, make the most of him to make it be like, oh, this was what Matt could have had, because I wouldn't put it past Vince. But, you know, I actually like Jeff Hardy when he gets a push. I think he's very talented. I still think he's got some very good years in him. So all I can say is all the best to him, frankly. So, you know, hopefully we'll see something good. Hopefully they won't ruin his whole thing. I know he's had to change his music and change his finisher's name. That was inevitable, because they don't want to be sharing anything with the likes of Cody and Tony Khan and all that. Moving on from that, we then finally got the Shinsuke versus Braun Strowman match shortly afterwards. And I don't know what to say. It's just, I feel sorry for Shinsuke Nakamura. Back in New World Japan, he was this big legend, you know. He was seen as this kind of almost unbeatable machine with his strong style, and he really got some fame recognition. And when I saw that he got moved to WWE and he was getting like this push and he was going almost like undefeated and he won the Royal Rumble, I was all behind him. I think a lot of people were. You could always see he got a big pop, especially with his catchy music theme. I'm not going to say music theme that came out. And, you know, and now I'm seeing him and he's like, he's acting like cowardly in front of Braun Strowman and panicking every time he picks him up and slams him and acting like, oh, my back hurts so much. And it's just like, it must feel embarrassing to him. He must be deep down thinking this is embarrassing, that I used to be considered one of the toughest guys in the business and now I'm seen running away hiding behind Cesaro. And it's just like, what has happened to me? That I can't imagine what's going through his head. I'm not going to say much more. It's obvious that Braun Strowman was going to win from the start. He hit the big power slam after he, you know, reversed the Shinkasa knee. I can't even say it properly. But what more is there to say? I feel sorry for Shinsuke. I wish him all the best. I hope one day when his contract's up, he could possibly go back to New World Japan or even go somewhere else where maybe his talent will be appreciated and he'll be allowed to do what he actually wants to do. I don't like to even talk about this. It's going to be the Fireflies Funhouse segment next. And I don't know about you guys, but the Firefly Funhouse has just lost all sense of hype with me. I'm no longer interested in it. I find it very contrived and boring off that WrestleMania thing. I just find it silly. I don't know. I feel like he's ruined it for himself. It was good at the start because it was subtle. It looked well directed, but now it's just pointing jokes and the whole thing with Braun Strowman and Braun Strowman saying "let me in" and then, you know, humorously saying bye and all that. It was gay. I don't want to use the word gay because it's like a good thing now. It was stupid. Yeah, is the better way to say it. It was bloody stupid, and they should just all be embarrassed. They should join Shinsuke in like the fucking embarrassing thing, and it's leading up to what is possibly going to be one of the worst matches of this year that they could possibly come up with, because you're going to be in a position where the Fiend needs to keep his hype, because he's obviously just come off this John Cena win, if even you can call it a bloody win. And you've got Braun Strowman, who's the Universal Champion, fairly new Universal Champion, that a lot of people are starting to get behind. So you can't really have him lose, but you can't have Bray Wyatt lose. So you're left in a position where it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to repeat Hell in a Cell and have a no contest finish? Just, what are you going to do? It's just, WWE have a really bad habit of backing themselves into a corner and cashing in a lot of checks that they can't actually cash in when they get to the bank. It's just, But that was Smackdown overall. I thought the overall show, if I was to give it a mark out of 10, would get a 4. Reasonable 4. It's not so shit that it's in the really low figures like 1 and 2, but it's never going to get high figures of 6 or 7 with the way they're setting up these matches and doing these silly squash matches as well was another thing that I'm sick and tired. It's not just them, everyone's doing them, so I'm just gonna move away from that. I'm gonna stick to that score. I think that's very, very reasonable considering what I saw. Following that on, because we ain't quite at Raw yet, because BTE, being the Elite, did get released a bit earlier than they normally do. They did like a part 1. I haven't watched part 2 yet. Saw a couple of people tweeting and Facebooking about it, saying like, it was good, but not that good. So we'll talk about part 1, and then maybe on my Friday broadcast I will talk about the part 2. But overall, part 1 began with Matt Hardy explaining what a squash match is. I don't know how to say it. It was, I guess you could say it was ironically funny, because on a part of it was funny the way he was explaining it as if he'd come up with it, where and if you're a hardcore fan, you already know how a squash match works because you've seen it a million times. So it was kind of funny watching a wrestler actually explain it and you kind of in your head going, exactly. So I found it funny in that respect. It did get a chuckle out of me. But if you were, say, a younger fan, someone that probably, is still new to wrestling, doesn't quite know that it's all scripted, it was probably quite damaging to you, and it probably made you lose a bit of faith, the fact that they basically got someone to admit that it's an act and it's not really a thing. The problem as well is that shortly after that, because Matt Hardy explained it for the fans so that the next match would be a squash match, so you could look out for these clues, it then made the squash match with SCU and that feel pointless, because you're watching a match and you know exactly that it is exactly what Matt Hardy said. So when he said it has to be in 3 minutes or less, you were like, yeah, it's gonna be over soon. The only good thing I can say is that it was quick. It was quick. But the problem is, if you're gonna explain something and then do it, people know what it is. There's no surprise. There's no kind of climax, because you're just like, yeah, it's gonna be over soon. So it's got to stay within the time limit. They can't do their certain amount of moves and stuff. So it really kind of ruined the fact that it got explained, but overall kind of had some comedic points, so it's kind of mixed results for me. I don't quite know what to think about it. The next thing has come to shock me, and a lot of my friends have abandoned me on this, but I don't know why. And the thing is, I'm going to say a sentence that even I don't believe is one of my sentences, because I can't believe that this is how I'm feeling right now. But Peter Avalon and Brandon Cutler are actually starting to grow on me. And I can't figure out for the life of me why. All my friends have said, wow, you like those guys? They're fucking shit. They never win. I said, but that's the point, is that they've got a thing about them now where they've kind of become this axe. The whole idea is Brandon Cutler and Pete Avalon are basically having this bet between themselves about who can finally end their losing streak. So they're going into these matches constantly trying to get a win and that. So we entered this tag team match and they jumped in going if we win, at least we finally break the streak and maybe we can start beginning a winning streak. And obviously by the end they lost, but I just thought it was brilliant. Like, you know, some of the promos they were cutting and that, especially like even after the match going, like, you know, I thought it was very funny. It was very well done. I'm starting to realise that they are quite good in the ring. Brandon Cutler's still a bit green. Pete Avalon has got some talent though. I've discovered that. I really appreciated Pete Avalon in this match. So I really don't know why. It was crazy. But I ain't going to say much else because a lot of stuff is comedy sections. I'm here to talk about wrestling. I know there's a bit with Kenny Omega and Colt Cabana again, and I don't really much care for it because it's that classic comedy slapstick and it then running through halls. And it was, you know, it's silly. Why should I care? But let's just move straight on. And straight on thing, I'm not going to rank Being the Elite, by the way, because it's not a full wrestling show, it's a YouTube show. Feel free to go watch it yourself and give it your own ranking and stuff. I give AEW Dark a ranking because it is a wrestling show on a YouTube platform. Whereas this had a lot of entertainment and just a few wrestling matches sprinkled mixed in with it. So I can't really call the same. And that's why I won't be ranking it at all. Anyways, we're going to move on to the last thing on the subject. There are no questions that I'll be taking after this, so we'll be ending it on this. And that is Raw. A bit like how Gordon Ramsay would say it after he sees most people cooking. It's Raw. I like Drew McIntyre. I really do, and I'm saying that now. I like Drew McIntyre. But the fact they had him acting like a fucking baby when he came out into the ring going like, oh, I thought the Big Show, it was really difficult and it really hurt. And then he got to go for the highlights going like, oh, when he hit me, it hurt so much. And it was just like, are you fucking serious? You actually fucking serious? It was embarrassing. Like, and I was saying the stuff before on Smackdown was embarrassing, but this is embarrassing. And it didn't do him any favours as a champion. It just made him look like a whiny bitch live on TV in front of millions of people. So I don't know. I can't figure out what made him think about that. And yeah, I'm speechless. I'm so embarrassed just for the writing team. Whoever came up with that, going, oh, Drew McIntyre, you know what you should do? You should go out into the middle of the ring and go on about your feelings and go on about how you're sore and you're hurting. You know, because you're our champion, you're our main guy. Well, that's exactly why you shouldn't go out to the ring and admit you're hurt. 'Cause you are the champion, you're supposed to be the strong face of the fucking company. It's just fucking stupid. Just made him look like a whiny bitch, which has ruined his cred, especially with me. I don't think I'll be able to watch him now without seeing him, imagining his tights as a nappy or something like that. It's just what are they thinking? What? I can't. I'm just burying my hands. It's just not burying my hands, burying my face in my hands. God. It looks like someone needs to write me a script because this is just as bad. That was followed by Asuka again. It's nice to know that she's getting around on that because she's showing up on SmackDown and Raw. I used to think the only reason she showed up on SmackDown and Raw was because she was one half of the tag team champions. So the champions always had to show up on both platforms, as what they once stated. But no, apparently Asuka's just one of those people that's available to travel, I guess. So they're just appreciating it. Or maybe they decided to take SmackDown and Raw and they could only use the cast they had limited. But once again, she looked good. She did her promo, jumping on the commentator's table and shouting a few things down the mic. And she actually won the match. She looked strong. She makes a very good heel, like I said before. And once again, she kind of took the spotlight away. I kind of forgot about who she was even facing. I really do think she needs a push. I would like to actually see her get that fucking push. In fact, I'd like to see her get that push and knock Charlotte Flair off her fucking high horse. I would like to finally see it, because we were robbed of it at WrestleMania when they built her up as someone that had never lost a match, that had this winning streak, that was known as this submission specialist with her Oscar lock and like the way she was getting out of everything else. And then suddenly at WrestleMania she's against Charlotte Flair and she fucking taps out to the figure eight. The submission specialist tapped out. Like, do they not understand how bad that is? And to ruin someone's winning streak on the grand stage, I don't give a fuck if it was for Charlotte Flair. I'm sorry, she's good in the ring and she is really talented, but she ain't so good that it was good enough to ruin that storyline. It was brilliant. She should have won that belt and had a good winning streak and eventually lost to someone like, I don't know, Ronda Rousey or something, because then at least it would have made more of an impact. Like, what the fuck was the point in it? What did it serve? We've already seen fucking Charlotte Flair champion. And the fact is, even when she finally won at TLC, she then had it robbed of her on just a normal night of SmackDown by Charlotte Flair again. So it looks like Charlotte Flair's just Oscar's kryptonite. And I'm bloody sick of it. She deserves a fucking win, and I really would love it to be against Charlotte Flair. I would have a massive pop, and that's the day that I will rate a Raw show at like 8 or 9, just for the simple fact I'll ignore all the fucking negatives. Fuck it. This is my broadcast. I can say what I want. The day she does that, I'm giving it a fucking 9 at least, if not a fucking perfect 10. Shortly after that, we had another Aleister Black squash match. Nothing to complain about that. Aleister Black always looks good in the ring. I'm a big fan of his. I recently watched his workout routine with Sheamus and that they did a while back. And, you know, I always forget that Selena Vegas is actually his partner in real life. And, the guy goes through such intense trainings to perfect his art. And when he's out in the ring, he's so collected. He's very smooth with his movements. The Black Mass has always been a good finisher. Looks good. Always and the fact that so far it's just been win-win-win for him, I hope that eventually gets a push. He should be the one that's going after Braun Strowman, not fucking Bray Wyatt. I'd rather see that. It would be kind of cool, the idea of talent versus muscle, brute versus agility. That would make so much better of a main event than what they're setting up right now. I'm telling you that. I would put good money on that absolutely being amazing. The next thing that followed on that was they had an update on Shayna Baszler. Yeah, Shayna Baszler. Just said that as one word. And they were talking to her and she went out there, got moody and sacrificed her. I don't know, once again, what the fuck was the point in bringing someone up that had such a good long reign as NXT's Women's Champion to have her come in the ring and absolutely dominate Becky Lynch and make her look so weak and have this big powerful heel looming over, because we have so many bloody baby faces nowadays holding belts, just to have her lose it at fucking WrestleMania, just to have her lose the match. She didn't even get the belt in the first place. She lost the match challenging for it to a stupid disarmer, and it's just once again it annoys me, because it's the same thing that they had the problem with Ronda Rousey. The reason why Ronda Rousey could not tap at WrestleMania is because she clearly argued with the directive, saying it would be stupid for an MMA or UFC fighter that have practiced getting out of these kind of submissions like Becky Lynch does to then tap out of it in a wrestling thing. It wouldn't help her cred. It would make her look fucking stupid. And the worst part is that Shayna Baszler is cut from the same cloth. She came from the same background, so why the fuck did she tap? I think it's just because she didn't argue enough with the directors, didn't call them fucking idiots. Because it makes no sense. You see, if you ever saw a UFC guy try and sit on your arm to bend it backwards, you wouldn't be dumb enough to lay there and let them do it. With that kind of training background. Maybe on a normal person, they'd just be so panicked or so exhausted they wouldn't be able to react. But with someone that's got the cardio and the kind of head game that a lot of these UFC fighters done, they would never fall for it, and their muscle reflex would just be too good to get him in that simplistic of a submission. So it's just, once again, it didn't serve its purpose. It was bloody stupid, and it's just ruined Shayna Baszler very early on. It's just nice to see that WWE like to take these NXT talents and just squash them and just ruin them, along with Rhea Ripley as well. They might as well just all get in the bin, because apparently they're not good enough. That's not me saying it. Apparently WWE think it. It's just bloody stupid. And then it only gets worse from there, because now I'm going to talk about Seth Rollins' promo and fucking, I got defeated at WrestleMania. I've been humiliated. It's like, fucking hell. Talk about whiny babies. It was the worst promo I've ever seen from Seth Rollins. I've seen some pretty bad ones so far, but this one takes the cake. He just looked like a whingy bitch, even when he was trying to make his threats going like, I'm going to show these people what I'm about, and I was just like, ugh. And of course he has to always get his catchphrase in, so everyone's always got to say, I'm going to stomp it out, or I'm going to burn it down, or something like that. It's just, he's so cheesy now. He used to be such a good wrestler. I really did think he was such a good, and he still is in the ring, but who's ever writing these scripts for him must have a secret vendetta against him, because they seem to just want to make him look like an absolute prat. That's all I've got to say. I'm not going to go into too much talk. Shortly after that, we had Angel Garza in a match, and he actually makes a good heel. What can I say? I wasn't keen on him at first when he first showed in the picture, like joining the rest of them with like Shayna Baszler and fucking that other dude that I don't care about, Andrade. He's starting to grow on me, I have to admit. He's another one that I'm starting to wonder why I like him, but I do like him. He kind of has that kind of like Eddie Guerrero style to me. Like when he's on top, he's got this kind of like Viva La Raza kind of feel to it. I don't know about you guys. I feel like with the right kind of push, we could see him like one day maybe in the same kind of top spot that Eddie Guerrero once set the bar at. I'm not saying he's going to go over it. I'm going to say we might see him get close to it if he's given the right push. I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. But yeah, I only have positive things to say about him. I actually look forward to him. He's one of the highlights, I think, of the whole thing. One thing I will say after this is that we then had Lashley in another... It wasn't quite a squash match. He still had difficulties, and it's supposed to do with the storyline with him and Lana. But, Jesus, this guy only got married like a few months ago, and he's already over her by the feels of it. I think they just realised that it wasn't working very quickly, so they're already breaking them up. It's bloody stupid. He's already... What was the point in having the wedding? Spending all that money doing that big wedding scene and doing that big budget. I know it got loads of views on YouTube and that, but now people are going to think, well, what the fuck was the point in building up to this, having the wedding, having the feud, just for it to all go down the fucking drain? Like, Rusev never quite had the proper feud match with Bobby Lashley. It kind of just disappeared out of nowhere. Lana was just too shit in the ring to keep her feud going, so that's just ended very quickly. And it's just, I don't know, it just feels like they couldn't think of anything more else for them to do as a married couple, so knowing our fucking luck, we'll see Lana back with Rusev. Rusev will take her back, and it will be like, she'll go back to using a fucking Russian accent, knowing our luck. You just know they will. No one's going to argue with me that. You just know that that's what they're going to do. The next thing that happened as well is we saw Ricochet and... wasn't Cedric. There was someone else with him, but the problem is Ricochet just took so much of the limelight, I can't remember, and they were in a tag team match against the Viking Raiders. And I don't know about you guys, but I got a very strong feeling, and I don't know, I hate to compare AEW, WWE, but I couldn't help but notice that the way they've got Ricochet kind of in this tag team, and the way they've got him doing moves, this super agile thing, it reminded me a lot of Rey Fenix and like Pentagon Jr., like their style, like the way that you had one highlighter and then one guy that relied on a bit on agility and muscle, but you had one guy that was constantly like running on the ropes and bouncing off things. It felt very like copying the fact they've gone from Ricochet as a single star to a tag team very quickly, as if someone saw the Lucha Brothers, saw how popular they were getting, and was like, let's just do that with Ricochet. He's got the flexibility, he's got the tattoos, I swear to God, if they make him come out in like a mask, I'm 100% correct. But, maybe it's just my paranoia kicking in. Like, I might be wrong, but I just got very strong vibes. But they've made all the effort to make them wear matching gear, so surely they've got plans for this tag team. So we'll see more of them. And the match was good for what it was. It was a good match. So, hopefully, if it's done right, they might be even better than the Lucha Brothers. So we'll see. I'm not going to say anything bad. I couldn't help but notice that fact. You might not saw it at all, but I felt like that. Go rewatch it and you might notice it yourself. After that, we just had a typical Drew McIntyre match where he was going in, showing off his strength and his chops against Andrade. Like, one thing I will say is when that man delivers a backhand chop, it sounds so vicious. Did you, like, anyone else that saw that show would have heard those chops and thought like he'd slapped his nipple away. It was that powerful. And, you know, it's just typical, just showing off his strength, throwing them about, you know, just, you know, doing what he does best, you know, being a big, strong guy with a powerful kick. And the match didn't even feel like it lasted that long. It felt like it was over rather quickly to me. I think it did have a pretty decent runtime. So that is such a bad sign. If you don't notice how long a match is, that normally means it's good. So I'm going to say it's only good. And it seems like we're building up this thing with, you know, we've got Andrade and, like, you know, he's almost gathering his own little gang that's going. I think it's interesting because it's been a while since we've actually had a faction or, like, at least had a group in WWE that was somewhat interesting. And like I said, Angel Garza makes a really good heel in the group. I actually think he would do better as the leader because Andrade just, to me, with his limited English skills and the fact they won't let him cut a promo in his language because WWE don't like other languages, apparently. You know, subtitles must be so hard for them that they just can't possibly do it. So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. Overall, I'd give the Raw show... I'd give it a 3 out of 10 just because they fucking ruined Drew McIntyre with that. It's going to get lower. Like, I'm tempted to give it a 2 just because it fucking... how babyish they made Drew McIntyre look and just how terrible the fucking thing was. But the fact that I like the Angel Garza match and the Ricochet tag team match with... I want to say Cedric Alexander, but I don't think it was good. You know, and once again, Asuka stayed strong. You know, I think she's one of the better female wrestlers in the company, and she doesn't get enough of a push. But, yeah, I'll keep it a 3, just because there was a few good elements, but it is overshadowed by just how crap that start of the show was, and how they've just ruined a lot of people's creds, and it reminded me of a lot of the things that annoyed me about WWE. I haven't even got into the fact that Charlotte Flair showed up on this show as well with the NXT Championship. I'm not even going to get started about what I thought about her versus Rhea Ripley, because I personally think Rhea Ripley should have fucking destroyed her and kept the NXT Championship. But apparently that WWE are not interested. It just feels a bit like ECW again, where they're just getting these other brand promoters that are under them that they've already brought out to show up in their shows just to humiliate them in front of an audience. It's embarrassing, and I feel sorry for them. I hope Rhea Ripley gets her stride back and gets a push. Might even win the belt back, would be nice. But there's not much more to say. Overall, you know, it's been an alright weekend of wrestling. And, you know, the BTE stuff was, like I said, had some comedy sections that were quite fun. I will watch part 2. And come this Friday, I will be... obviously reviewing AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite and talking about them, and I'll also be answering a few questions that I'm sent by my fans. I've already had a few. There's a few interesting ones about Ronda Rousey and stuff like that. But for now, that's it. I hope wherever you are, your families and friends are okay. I hope you have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or even a good night. Yeah, I don't know why you'd want my voice to be the last thing you hear, but suit yourself. And just remember that it's all a work and that there's nothing to be that bothered about. And take care. Bye-bye.